Hi, my name is Tony Caldwell. I am the owner of Caldwell Counseling in Nashville, Tennessee, and also the co-owner of Caldwell Guitars along with my 16-year-old son Silas. I'm glad to be here with you today, and I want to start by talking about target markets. So our venture in Nashville involved relocating to Nashville, completely new town, not many relational connections there or professional, so we were starting from the ground up with both businesses. My wife and I have been in private practice as psychotherapists for a little over 20 years, and so this is the third city that we've built a practice in. We lived in 2 locations in Mississippi during those first 20 years, where we were much more connected relationally and professionally, and so the starting of these new businesses in Nashville was a completely new thing for us on many fronts. So we did start with picking out our target market. In therapy, there are many possibilities here. Historically, we've worked with trauma and with children and orphanages and group homes and that sort of thing. But we wanted to branch out and try something different and work with adults and sort of bring what we've learned about early trauma into doing early trauma work with adults. And so this was a new exploration professionally for us as well. So we started with actually marketing ourselves according to our experience and the current demographic that we wanted to work with. And we started initially with finding partnerships with other people who were doing that sort of work. And those relational connections actually grew really quickly into being able to partner with some other professionals that were doing similar work, which involved us becoming part of a collective where 14 of us total, shared space, shared overhead, shared an executive assistant that could help organize and sort of keep everything on track, keep the books in order and that sort of thing. And we did that until we sort of built things to the point that we could just fly solo. But it was a great way to have some stability, a built-in referral network, a built-in source of mutual support. We would do staffings once every 2 weeks in order just to have basically a built-in community. So if there's any way to partner, depending on what your business is or what your venture is, if there's any way to partner with others, I think collaboration is always a great thing. I know depending on what area you're in, business can be really, really competitive, and relationships can obviously be strained or sort of, the hybrid relationships that are somewhat friendly but also competitive and can be really complex to navigate. That's not so much the case in the therapy world. I will say in the music world and in the musical instrument business, there is some of that as well. I've also found that here in Nashville, the joy and the passion related to starting a venture like that kind of lends itself to people who are somewhat collaborative and at least very relational, but also competitive is part of it. Honestly, the musical instrument business is something that I think you should go into for the joy of it. I think so. I think that goes without saying for the psychotherapy world, but in the musical instrument world, the margins are not great. A lot of businesses don't make it. I can't see any reason to choose that particular undertaking outside of just the pure joy of it. We do this for community. We do it for connection and relationship, and it's really and the creativity. That's why we do what we do there. It's not really something that we're trying to get extremely wealthy at. So depending on your goals, and I have to say, especially since living here in Nashville, I've worked with a lot of extremely wealthy people that are extremely miserable because the pursuit of wealth just in and of itself does not lead to happiness or wholeness or health. So for our music business, our target market was obviously musicians, and Nashville being the most musical city probably in the universe. It's where the bulk of the music industry is today, and most of the industry from New York and LA has already moved here or is moving here. So definitely sort of the hub for music in the United States. But what exactly does it mean to have services tailored towards musicians in a town full of musicians? So first we had to look at sort of our targets within the world of music in Nashville, and that meant multiple things. One, Nashville is a tourist town. It is an entertainment town. So we wanted to look at the fact that being located in a space that has proximity to the major studios in town and to the tourists in town, but also not sort of so bombarded with tourists, because there are some stores in town that have so much foot traffic and people coming in for Instagram posts and that sort of thing that they actually had to become by appointment only on the weekends. So trying to find a location, that was the biggest strategy for us initially, was location. So we're in a place where we have some of the tourist activity, which is a great blessing because you have so many more customers than if you just had a regional or local clientele, especially because there are other pre-existing music stores here who have a lot of loyalty and a lot of investment into the community over the years, things that we're just now building. So it's great to have all of the above. So location is really important depending on what your business is. Also, Nashville is a town, like any town, full of hobbyist musicians who, play for their own enjoyment. But it's definitely a town full of working musicians who play locally, who tour and perform with major artists, and who really have so many options that choosing you is really something to be proud of. It's an honor to be chosen by a working professional who really could work with anyone, anywhere. And then there are two other sort of segments that we've realized were there that we weren't thinking of initially. One is the curious. So when you put your marketing out there, you're going to have people come in just out of curiosity, people just wanting to see who you are, what you're about, what you offer. And I found that the best way to turn the curious into return customers is to just be really relational. I think this is something that I've pulled from my therapeutic background, but when the person who comes in to your place of business is the most important person in that moment, that sends a message. And if it's authentic, it really sends a message. It's not a manipulative tactic as much as it is a valid and real desire for human connection, more than just some sell at the cash register. So I think human relationship is so extremely important, and then I have to say the nature of relationship has really changed over the past decade, just through our devices, and then of course with the pandemic. I mean, the nature of relationship, virtual school, virtual universities, the human connection is different than it was a decade, especially 2 decades ago. So that felt experience of a resonance, if you will, between self and other is so important everywhere, all the time. And I can see no reason not to bring that into the business world. I know there are some spaces in the business world where that's really not safe, for multiple reasons. So, a well-developed persona is also very important. Walking through the world without a persona is sort of like walking through the world without skin. So it's important, as long as it doesn't become a mask you can't pull off and you forget you're not the mask at some point, and all know individuals for whom that's happened, and that's a cautionary tale, whoever that person might be for you. The other demographic that we didn't think of was collectors. So we had thought about collectors of instruments who would come in wanting to buy things for their collections, but we didn't think about the collectors who actually want to unload what they own and don't want to invite people into their homes, or don't want people to know where their vast collection of millions of dollars worth of guitars are located. So they tend to spread these out among stores that are reputable and that they trust as consignment pieces, and carrying consignment pieces that are anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 each is requires a lot of trust. So again, the relational piece is so important. There have been so many collectors, builders, really well-known musical artists, people that I didn't know who they were when they came in, and learned afterwards who they were, but it was the fact that we were relationally connected and that there was an authenticity coming towards me independent of who they are in the world or how famous they are and that sort of thing, that some of them later on spoke to and said they appreciated. So it can be exhausting to receive special treatment everywhere you go. I know that's probably a great problem to have, but as far as building an actual friendship with people who are at high levels in their industry, I think authenticity is the best way for that connection to organically happen in a way that is just authentic. So I want to offer that as well. As far as customer segments, we also had to think about the uniqueness of our setting. So because we are a setting where there are multiple touring acts and large scale performers, we have lots of working musicians who need their gear maintained and repaired with a very quick turnaround. There are many reputable places in town that do that, but they tend to have waiting lists, sometimes a month or longer, to get your instrument back when it comes in for repair. So one of the things we had to figure out and jump on really quick is how to offer that service with a quick turnaround, and that part was easy because we had to build up the repair part of our business, which wasn't an initial part of our plan as far as something that was sort of a centerpiece, but it quickly became that. And finding the people to partner with to do that work has been priceless, and that has become probably, I'd say, 30 to 40% on a given month of our revenue that we weren't expecting. So it's a great blessing in that it creates some padding, and that work alone can usually cover our overhead, so that sales are icing on the cake. So look for the opportunities that you may not be thinking of initially. Also want to add that in our therapy practice, we were in a new city again, so the partnerships were important, the organic connections were important, but I want to say this: think about how you want your business to feel. So the decor, the way the space feels, and when you're daydreaming or sort of building your vision, maybe in addition to thinking about how it will look or how it will play out, think about how it will feel. How will it feel to step into this space? How will other people feel when they walk into this space? How will people feel in interactions? But think about creating a mood, if you will, a sense of having an experience. What is another person's experience of you? What is their experience of what you're offering? What is their experience of how you approach them? So think about the feel. It's so important. Again, the relational piece is so important. We in Nashville have such a more demanding clientele therapeutically. In the two previous towns we were in Mississippi, a limited amount of therapists there, and we've really invested a lot into advanced training, so we're sort of at the top of the heap, if you will, in those settings. Moving into Nashville, being new, therefore not connected, And then the fact that, any person seeking a therapist has an endless array of extremely qualified and experienced practitioners means that it's a different game. But all that to say, it all fell into place and very quickly. But several things to keep in mind there. Look for the opportunity. I come from a teleological approach therapeutically, so you're looking for the opportunities in conflict or chaos or hardship. And for us, we landed in Nashville just as the pandemic started, and so I found myself in this collective of 14 therapists, and then within a matter of days, I was the only one in the building. We were all working virtually, and most people were doing that from home. Wasn't really an option for us because we're 2 therapists and we have a 16-year-old doing online school, and all of that in one house just wasn't ideal. So I was in this very large office space that houses 14 of us alone for 2 years, which was a little disorienting. Being in a new town, starting a new business, and all of your in-person clientele going away was very scary. But, even to this day, half my clientele are still online and half are in person. But all that to say, looking for the opportunity, the pandemic actually grew our business. We're probably one of the few, professions where that probably happened as much as not, because people had more flexibility, and some people would prefer to do therapy in the comfort of their home. So it's really helpful in some ways. Also, specializations are important. So for me, that was working with people who have dealt with some religious trauma, people who were seeking some work around racial harmony, things that I had dealt with for years, and it's my whole life from childhood on involved those themes personally and within my community. So being able to bring that experience here and offer it here has been created a sort of a corner in the market, if you will. I think the work's too sacred to just call it a corner of the market, but it is that as well. Also, specialization, working with people on the margins in many ways. Also, the fact that I've done a dozen years of advanced training in psychoanalysis gives me a very particular place in the market, and the particular type of work that I offer. I'm the only person in Nashville that offers that type of work currently. I think there's only like 250 of us in the world, so it's definitely a specialization. But in addition to that, I would say, the broadness of, being able to also do couples work and traumatic work and somatic work is important in having a sort of a general clientele, because most of us carry some degree of anxiety, depression, trauma, that sort of thing. Also, my wife and I partnered to do couples work, where she'll work with one person in a partnership, I'll work with the other, and then we'll all 4 get in the room together. So that's a unique approach that isn't often possible. So we've capitalized on that as well. It's been beautiful work. Then again, partnerships with nonprofits and also with a few clergy members who would send referrals our way, turned into speaking engagements to some of these organizations and congregations that led to doing workshops and trainings. And so again, partnerships, collaboration, thinking of everything you do as a creative pursuit and as a way to participate in human connection in a meaningful way, in addition to seeking fulfillment and profit. So hope that's helpful, and I'll see you in the next segment. Thank you.